In 2025, UCAS completely changed the format of the personal statement. Now, instead of one big block of text, you have 3 separate questions. It's essentially trying to get the same information out of you, but in a more structured way for you to write and for the universities to read. Hi, I'm Bartol if you're new here. I studied mechanical engineering at the University of Oxford, and for the past 5 years I've helped many students with their personal statements, both the old and the new version. At this point, you're probably starting to write your personal statement and thinking, how do I fit everything I've done into 4,000 characters? Or what are admissions officers actually looking for? Well, good news for you, the new personal statement structure is a lot simpler, and in today's video, hopefully, I'll show you how to tackle it in order for yours to stand out. I'll give you some practical tips I've used with students, simple checklists for each section, and real examples of what works and what doesn't. Bear in mind, most of the work I've done is with students applying for STEM subjects. However, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover between other subjects as well. So in this video, we'll cover why the 3 clear question framework is better and how to tackle it, how to answer each section powerfully, common mistakes that occur and how to fix them or prevent them from happening, and how to actually start writing today, getting over that hurdle and starting today. So before further ado, let's dive in. So before we start looking at each second, I think it's just important to clarify the structure. Before it was one long essay, now it's 3 separate questions, essentially asking the same sort of things, but just in a much nicer, in my opinion, structure. The 3 questions are on motivation, so why this subject? Preparedness, are you ready academically to go to university and study this subject? And supercurriculars, what have you done outside of school in order to help you prepare for university and to tackle this new and exciting subject? Now, this structure is great because it forces clarity. It forces you to keep distinct sections, and it's much easier to write and think about, and also for the admissions officers at universities to read. The important thing here is that sometimes this will be the only piece of work that the universities will see. And so it's a super important piece of work because you want to get all of your personality across in just one piece of work. So think of this as a job application, with this being your CV for the job, the only thing someone will see in order to make a yes/no decision. So it's a big decision counting on just that one piece of work. So it has to be great. Another thing to remember is this is an academic story and not a personal life story. Obviously, you can include anecdotes in your life, but in every single sentence you write, it needs to be academic in a sense that it should describe why you want to study that subject from the point of view of academics, how you are prepared for the subject, and the supercurriculars that you have done for the subject, the projects, the pieces of work that you have done outside of school. Now that AI exists, it's a super helpful tool. It can really help structure your thinking, give a little template for your work. But because this is your personal statement, this is your voice, there is no point AI writing it. I use AI a lot, and it's hard to prompt it to use your voice. And so for structure, it's great. For the actual full writing, definitely not worth it. It just doesn't have the same emotion behind it and the same tone that you have yourself. So for the writing process, we want to make it as easy as possible because we need to start as soon as possible. The earlier you start, the more thinking time you have. And now, just looking at it as one big task, it's hard to start, and it was hard to start for me. Now, the thing that I did, I know it was a different structure, but if I was to do it again, I'd have each question written down, and for each question I'd put 4 or 5 bullet points. And then I'd stop. I'd come back the next day and write out each bullet point in sentences. And then I'd stop and I'd come back the next day, and then I would string these bullet points together. And that gives you the skeleton of your personal statement. So in 3 days, you have a skeleton and a great first draft of your personal statement, which you can then add things, watch some more videos like this one, include specific points, do some more work outside of school to then include into your personal statement, and things like this. So section 1 is about motivation, why you want to study the specific subject. Here the goal is to show intellectual curiosity. Now I know that's a bit hard to show, but I think a good way to think about it is find that spark for your subject. Where did it come from? Was it a specific book? a specific lecture, project, or experience, and then explain why it intrigued you. And then finally, we then need to link that to degree level study. The main idea here is that your passion cannot just be said, it's much stronger if you convey it through action. So if you read a book, prove you read the book by naming the book, naming the specific chapter that you enjoyed or focused on, naming the university you went to a lecture at, what was it about. Here, similar to the second and third sections, it is actually a plus to show that you're doing stuff outside of school. And so including Supercurriculars here is definitely not a bad thing. It shows that you've done a lot outside of school to actually prove that you want to study the subject. Here, a lot of students miss the opportunity to show that love for their subject and the motivation to study it for 3 or 4 years at university. They are fooled by thinking they have to write statements like, I've always loved this subject because of this random experience, or ever since the age of 4 I have thought about some topic in physics. That is all great, but it doesn't really get to the point quick enough, and it even wastes a few characters. What they're really testing with this question is, do you understand your subject deep enough? Do you take initiative to explore it further? Is your motivation strong enough to survive the course for 3 or 4 years at university? So a quick self-check here, because this part is probably the most personal part. It's your motivation, it's your sort of origin story. When you're writing things, it's easy to get into the cloud. So think about, is what I'm writing specific in terms of specific to the subject? Is it personal? And is it academic? It has to be all of these 3 things. Then it can be put as a sentence in that section. So section 2 of the personal statement is on preparedness. The main goal is to show that you can handle university on an academic level. What universities want to see is independence in your work, resilience to stresses and outside pressures, critical thinking when it comes to essays or questions, and initiative. Some strong examples could include, some things you could write about are an experience where you struggled with a topic but overcame that struggle, self-studying a new topic beyond school, maybe at a higher level, a university level, and also applying knowledge that you already have into new contexts. The key technique, I think, for this section is to always reflect. So when you think about an experience you want to write about, test yourself. What was specifically difficult in that scenario? What did I learn? And also, why does this matter for uni? Why should I write this specific thing for an admissions officer? And thirdly, why does this matter for university? A possible example in an engineering context could be that you really enjoy forces and vectors at A level in the subject of physics. However, you are tackling a new project which you know will need some vectors and forces, but you might be missing a little bit of knowledge to connect between A-level knowledge and that new project that you're working on. And so to fit this gap, you take a university textbook out. You scan through the book and find the topic that you need, which might be vectors in 3D space, or how to put vectors into matrices and then use them. So here we had what was difficult. We had our forces and vectors that were difficult to apply to the project, but you filled in the gap by looking at a university textbook that shows initiative and independence in finding your own resources and learning things of your own accord. Now, what did you learn? Well, if you apply this to a project, think about how this specific technique, for example, the technique with the forces that you used in the project, think about how it worked. Did it help you get to the outcome that you wanted? Were there any limitations with the actual method? And potentially, are there better methods out there that you didn't consider or you might want to consider in the future? With everything that you do, you can always explore it deeper, critique ideas, and add your own opinion. At the end of the day, the personal statement is your voice. And so you want to write something that you specifically think about something rather than just the facts about something. So strong themes to sort of consider when writing answers to this question could be self-directed learning. For STEM subjects, have you done projects by yourself or in a little group outside of school? For humanities subjects, it could be extended reading, essay competitions, things like that. Where have you found a place to use problem solving? This is probably the easiest of all the boxes to tick. You can always find a place to use problem solving. The hard part is just doing it. And so you have to do something that involves problem solving, which is a project or an essay, something like that. And academic growth, showing that you are extending yourself, is literally the definition of academics. So in everything you write in this section and in others, show how you are growing academically. And most importantly, show it and don't tell it. So common mistakes here are thinking of it like a CV and just listing things. With this, it's much better to go into more detail while talking about fewer things than just listing a lot of things and not going into any detail, because they want to see your character shine through. So mention one or two things, but go into a lot of detail. That's why you don't have to do a lot to write your personal statement. You just have to think about a lot in your personal statement. So you do one thing, and then instead of just writing that you've done it, you write what you learned, you write what you could have done better, you critique your own work, you critique other people's work and other people's methods, and this gives you so much more detail and depth to show your character in your work. So doing an activity is one thing, but reflecting on it is really what makes your personal statement a lot stronger. Okay, so the final question on the personal statement is about supercurriculars. What have you done outside of school to prepare you academically for the subject at university? Here the goal is to really show your deeper engagement with the subject, how you've taken initiative, gone beyond your school framework and syllabus to actually explore the subject by yourself. The key thing is supercurricular, so it's outside of your regular curriculum. And this is actually very broad, but it allows you to talk about many, many different things. Now, because it allows you to talk about many, many different things, you might be thinking, how do I get enough work experience? How do I do enough project? The key thing here, in my opinion, is depth and not breadth. So you don't actually have to do that many things. You just have to think about them. So if you've done one project and read one book, then in my opinion, that's kind of all I did. The thing that I did differently is I read a book specific to a given project that I was working on, and I did some work experience in a very specific field that I was interested in. And so with those two things, I didn't do any more. I just went into a lot of depth when talking about them. And I'll explain that a bit more later. So strong examples of supercurriculars are lectures, books, projects, podcasts, audiobooks. It doesn't really matter what you do. It's how you think about it. So if you went to a lecture, the easy and simple thing is just to write, I went to this lecture. It was about this. The harder thing to write, but definitely better, is I went to this lecture, I found this piece of information that was quite interesting. I linked it back to something that I learned previously that actually this changed my view on. I then even critiqued the lecture, thinking about what aspects of the lecture I actually forget. And then I said what I wanted to do in the future to find out even more about this subject. So see how from this one experience, you have two completely different stories. Here you have 4 actions that you've taken from that lecture, and on the other side, you just went to the lecture. So you can talk about a ton of stuff from just having one experience. The key thing with all of this is just always linking back to academic skills. So as I said, how to turn one experience into a nice sentence in your personal statement is critiquing other people's work, because at university you will learn that everything is just an opinion, unless it's really mathematical. Everything is kind of just an opinion, and you are meant to critique it. That's how the academic field progresses. And so universities want to see that in students, because students hopefully become postgraduates and then professors. And so in order for the academic field to grow, they need to teach sort of critiquing of work, problem solving, critical thinking, all at university. So they want to see a nice seed before university that can grow at university into what they want to see. They want you to form your own opinions. Obviously at university this is very important. Having everyone else's opinion is okay, but having your own opinion is great. That's how discussions form, that's how new ideas develop, And so they also want to see that. And connecting concepts, seeing how different things connect that other people may not see. Another great skill to have at university, especially in my opinion in the STEM subject, with engineering particularly, is seeing how different fields of engineering connect and taking concepts from maybe electrical engineering and applying them to biomechanics. A great skill to have. It's probably the most important skill they try and develop at university. So here, weak approaches, as I've kind of mentioned, is just saying that you went to a lecture, saying what sports you do, saying what clubs you're in. It really gives no additional information about you. It just says that you've done something. The admissions officers really want to get into your head and see how you apply things. And so reflecting on experiences is much better than just having experiences. Here, there is no need for these elite opportunities. There is no need for summer schools. That's the great part about this. It takes a little bit of initiative to do something, and then it takes a little bit more initiative to think about something, frame an understanding about something, criticize, develop, explore. That's the bulk of the personal statement. And best thing is it's completely free. Now, for top universities, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, everything has to be in terms of academics. For other universities, maybe not so much, but even with these supercurriculars, they have to be related to academics. If you're doing a sport, you have to relate to academics. The way I did this was talking about sailing and then relating something about a wave concept back to academics. Or if you do music, relating that to something with academics. A quick checklist for this final question to write is, did I go deep enough? Have you mentioned 3 additional actions that you took after just naming the supercurricular? That's one good way of making sure you write with enough depth. Did I reflect on my experiences? And again, with what actions to take? Did you critique, reflect, expand, develop ideas? Those are a few things that you could do as actions to a specific experience. So now you know exactly how to approach the new structure of the personal statement, the 3-question structure. You've seen what strong motivation, preparedness, and supercurriculars look like, and how to talk about them and avoid common mistakes. The most important thing, it's in the name. You should make it personal. It should sound like your voice. I know that sounds a bit hand-wavy, but write in your own voice and try and convey the excitement you have about starting the university course. You want to show off everything that you've done and prove that you have the capability of taking that next step from high school into university. So here's the next step before you just click off this video and watch another one to help you prepare even more. Don't do that. Open a Word document. For each of these sections, the motivation, preparedness, and supercurricular section, write down 4 bullet points that you can start with. That will get over that initial barrier of just starting the personal statement, because time goes pretty quickly, and so it's best to start as early as possible. So start the bullet points, later write longer sentences and string them all together at the very end, and if you follow that, it should be a piece of cake. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below. If you want me to take a look at your personal statements, I probably can't take a look at all of them, but if you have any specific questions about them, just write them in the comments below and I will take a look at them. If you found this video useful, make sure to like it, give a little subscribe if you feel like it. I know this wasn't specifically for Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial. This is more general, but definitely the same things apply. If not, with Oxford, Cambridge, and Imperial, they really want just even more academics. So the one big difference I'd say is that in the supercurricular section, most things should be academic. There shouldn't be too much sports or things like this. It should be a lot of academics. In the case that you do include sports, music, theater, just make sure to always string it back to academics and how it can prepare you for the course, even though it might be a little hard in some cases, but you can definitely try. There is also another great video that I will include down below, which is specifically for Oxford. I can make one, but there is also a great one already out there. Anyways, thanks for watching and good luck with the personal statements. Bye.